Hello and welcome to another episode of the MiamiHal Real Estate Show. It is Thursday at 2. Set your watches. We actually got on time today.
I'm back.
And Hav was early, so
Yes.
we hit the mark, right? 2
Yes.
o'clock.
Right.
And we are thrilled to have you here. If you're looking at us on demand, that's okay too. But I do want to kind of pause and go back to basics. This show is all about providing great information to you and making sure that you can interact with us. So if you're watching us live, you've got a social media box, you know what to type. Hopefully nothing nasty, but ask us questions because we're here to answer those questions. But we will start off with our own topic, but we're happy to look up at the screen and see questions as they come in.
And I can see the screen, so I'm good with that. It's far enough where it's visually okay.
I have the same.
Yeah, visually okay. So.
It's a secret. I have the same thing. I have the bionic eye with a contact.
Yeah, exactly.
So Hav, you are with Remax Advanced Realty, as am I.
Yes.
And the two of us service the same general area, but we have our specialty areas.
Yep.
You being more toward the Grove and downtown,
Yep.
and I serve more Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, and south.
Right.
So we've got two great people you can talk to about real estate, and we're going to talk about what in general is happening with the market, because is that the number one question you're getting these days?
Everybody.
What's going on with the market? Right?
What's going on with the market? Which market?
The real estate market.
Oh, okay, fine.
That's the show.
Not a supermarket or anything
Not
like
a
that. No,
supermarket.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no.
Avocados are on sale. This week.
They are. Yeah, they are 2 for 1.
So here we are. The real estate market
Mhm.
has just exited, at least in my mind,
Right.
an insane period.
Right. Yeah,
where
for sure.
buyers and sellers and everybody related to the real estate market
For sure.
basically lost their heads for about a year and a half.
Yeah, for sure.
And we did some exciting but stupid things.
Mhm.
You agree?
Yeah, it had its moments.
Okay.
it had its moments where insanity took over. And you know what? And I'm gonna cut into it real quick. It's still out there. I just was gonna show a listing in Miami Shores.
Okay.
It was on Monday. Today is what, Thursday?
Today's Thursday.
Tuesday.
At 2 o'clock.
Tuesday, right? Thursday, exactly. That's why now you know why I don't make it sometimes. On Tuesday, the property was listed at $750.
Okay.
On Wednesday, when we were going to go look at it, it was listed at $815. So $65,000 magically appeared on the same house.
Okay.
From Tuesday to Wednesday. It must have been a special, like on Tuesday, to buy it on Tuesday.
That's right.
So it was a twofer.
Buy it early and
right,
often.
a twofer, yeah. So apparently, so insanity may still be out there, my friend.
For a few people, but in general, I think the word that you used is the one that I often use: insanity.
Yeah.
And so everybody asks me, how's the market?
Yeah.
And they're all excited for me because they think, oh my gosh, he's a real estate agent. He must be doing incredibly well.
Right.
And if they want the long answer, and that's what we're going to do today, we're going to talk a little bit about the long answer. Sure. What real estate agents want is a balanced market where buyers and sellers have almost an even keel to each other.
Right.
And we can really get our work done and create a good, solid deal
for both
so
parties.
that everybody's happy.
And we're not even close yet.
Right. But last year and a half and tailing off maybe 2 months ago, it started to trail off. We had the insanity. So what I tell people is sanity is beginning to come back in the room. The adult is almost back in the room to manage the kids.
Little by little.
Okay. And so I'm going to ask you the questions and see how you kind of react to it. I'm a consumer. Hey, I'm interested in selling my house and I think I've missed the top. Should I be selling my house now?
Yes. Sell your house now.
Okay. Why?
Well, because still you have a lot of interest from buyers. The pool of buyers have changed. We talked about this in a show like probably about a month ago. So you don't have as many buyers out there. You don't have 5,000 million buyers out there, which that's the insanity part. But you still have a competitive market. So you still have, before you had 20 buyers, now you only have 3 because the interest rates have been moving, in a certain way. So I think that pool of buyers is still there. They're serious buyers. They are people that are, know the market and are ready to buy on the market. So I tell any seller, put it on the market now. You can't do what these folks just did, go from 750 to 815. But
why not? My house is the best thing on the block.
At the end of the day,
in the world, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It's in a floodplain, and by the way, you don't have a pool, and also it's in a floodplain. Oh yeah, and it's in a floodplain. So yeah. So I can come up with a lot of reasons why not. Right. But again, I think at the end of the day, what we're seeing is that the pool of buyers are solid. You still have a supply and demand. We only have less than 2 months of inventory on both, on the side. So we're looking at the fact that we still haven't gotten to that 6 month. So it's still in the seller's position.
That's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna pause. I want you to continue with your answer, but
Sure.
that's interesting to me because
We're not there yet.
when I looked at Pinecrest, this is going back at this point about 5 weeks ago.
Right.
We had like 1.8, 1.9 months worth of inventory. Last week we had 6.1 months of inventory, and it's backed off a little bit. We're down to about 5.8 months now, but we are at that almost magical 6 months.
But as a whole, we're not.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. There's certain areas which have picked up inventory, and they picked up inventory, which we expected again. At the end of the day, you're getting out of the school year. People want to be moving in, people want to be moving out. But as a whole, we're still under the 6 month threshold.
Got it.
So
I'm the seller, and you're saying get it on market.
Get it on the market. Yeah, get it on the market. The pricing is still reasonable. The pricing has to be semi-competitive.
But I want to fix it up. I think I want to paint the whole inside, and I want to fix that bathroom because the toilet's not one of those current low flow toilets. I want to put in a
no.
Why?
No, don't. Why bother? You're going to go through selling it.
But I want to get the most money I can.
That is definitely not going to get you any more money outside of that.
Oh, why? I don't understand
Well,
that. If I paint the inside,
I don't like your color.
Oh,
I don't like your tile.
I
don't like your color. I don't like your tile. I don't like your bathroom.
You're talking about the walls.
I want a super flow toilet. I don't want that low flow toilet.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, sellers, the only thing I tell sellers is, make sure that any of the clutter is out of the way so that you can see the size of the place, and also landscaping, and make sure that if you have a pool, it's actually operational, not that it's green.
So if something in the house is broken, you fix it.
Yeah, you fix it.
If something aesthetically is not pleasing to you, you leave it alone.
You leave it alone
because
they're going to come in.
Has different tastes than you do.
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
So we're going back to the first topic we started with, which is, how's the market?
Right.
And my answer is we're coming back into sanity. What's that going to do to, in your mind, pricing and the general activity of the market?
So I think at the end of the day, pricing is probably going to stabilize. They say it's going to be decreasing. A very, very well quoted, how shall we say, expert was quoted that our market will drop 30%. In
by the way,
next year.
Not me. I'm well quoted.
No. This was in the press, and I'm looking at it thinking to myself, really?
Yeah, really.
So I have a $400,000 home, and I am going to lose 30% on it. So you think I am going to have a home in Miami-Dade County at $280,000?
Was that 30% prediction specific to South Florida, or that was
South
for
Florida.
the U.S.?
No, South Florida.
Wow.
It was specific to South Florida, and I'm thinking to myself, there is just no way. At the end of the day, and we've had this conversation over and over, and I highlight it. We will always have a supply and demand situation because we can't build anymore.
Okay.
Our building will always be limited because we have the Atlantic Ocean, we have the Everglades. And so we are always going to go, if we go vertical, that's fine. We're going to go vertical, but that only will solve one of the issues. But at the end of the day, unless you're going to go into rezone, and we've talked Pinecrest, rezone an acre into 9 homes, so that ain't going to happen. But that's what you need to do.
Right. And I've had the mayor of Pinecrest on, and I continually watch several of the other council people in Pinecrest basically say the petition that's going around, which is supposed to stop that, has no language that will stop that. And in fact, if that ever does get passed, it actually depowers the government that's currently in Pinecrest, and has done a beautiful job since they've incorporated to keeping all that stuff, that high development out of the area, and to keep the taxes low and everything functioning. So
it is a double-edged sword. They talk about affordable housing. They talk about, more housing. The only way you do it is you have to upzone everybody, and that's just not going to fly in certain places.
Yeah, exactly. So back to our core, the market is returning to sanity. And those of you that want to ask me if I'm doing really well, the short answer is I'm doing better now, sanity wise,
right? Yeah,
and frankly financially than I was during the craze.
Right.
Because if I had a buyer, instead of going out to see 4 or 5 houses and then being able to select the one they like and then making an offer and typically winning that offer, we had to see like 60 homes because before we even got out there, they were under contract,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it was a mess.
You can see that the market is, slowly opening it up. I still think the sellers may be a little bit high on the numbers, but not that much. I'm not,
Right.
they're
We're
not
in
some
agreement
crazy,
there.
they're not some crazy numbers. I mean, they may be, 10% off, and then we can negotiate that when we're looking at it from the buyer side. But again, what I see is that there's still demand out there from a pool of buyers, and it's not, everybody says that they're outside buyers. No, now we're looking at local buyers. We're looking at buyers that now their rents have gone up at Dayland from, $2,000 to $3,500, and that activates a market
Right.
that they realize and say, you know what, why aren't we, in the buying area? Interest rates have slowed us down, because that's a reality too. So I think once we get, once interest rates come back down, which they'll come back down, towards the end of the year. Once we see that, I think, we'll see a little bit more activity on the, in the general market.
Okay. So I appreciate everything. We're still going to circle back again. What is the reason for this change in the market? And to me, the first thing that I hear from people, it's not accurate,
Right.
is, the Fed raising its interest rates are killing, the housing market.
Right.
Is that true?
I think it's part of it, but I think it's also a self-fulfilling prophecy that we say, everybody says, the market's changing, the market's changing, the market's changing, and then you change the market. It's almost like
Agreed.
inflation, even though it's gone down and gas has gone down. I saw gas yesterday at $3.81 a gallon when we were just several weeks ago at $5.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a perception, and you put it out there. But I honestly believe that we will see, the market, playing out, and it'll still be well. We'll still be doing good.
So we talk about factors in the market, and I think that as you pointed out, people put way too much emphasis on what the Fed rate is.
Yeah.
The Fed rate certainly has its effect on what loans are going to be, but they are not in direct correlation.
No.
And even if the number got to 6% and stayed there, we were at 6 very briefly,
right, and then we're
for
back
the
down.
average home buyer, and now we're back down to the mid to upper 5s.
Right.
But
which is a very good rate, by the way.
Agreed. So even if we kind of have that as a factor, it's not what is really making the market change the way that it is. I think that we have seen a number of other factors that people are not paying attention to overtake the interest rates. Now, yes, of course, there was a study that was done. I think I saw it on CNBC several months ago. There was a $300,000 home 3 years ago, and they kind of followed what that home
trajectory
did. And so, of course, the price went up over those 3 years, and interest rates went down briefly, and then started to come back up. And what was interesting is it's very clear that 3 years ago you would have bought a $300,000 house and had a certain payment, and now it's something like $440,000 for that same house with a ridiculously high interest rate. So you were almost double on your mortgage payment for the same property 3 years later. That obviously has an effect. But what I am seeing is inventory levels are changing, not quickly, but they're changing. And I think one of the biggest quiet hush-hush factors is you've got sellers that were saying for a long, long time, you know what, the market's still going up. I'm going to wait, and I'm going to catch the top of the market. And they kind of saw the top of the market happen. And it wasn't one or two of them that realized this. It was like everybody collectively said, oh my God, we missed the top. And so they're on the market. And they're they're trying to get the top of the market. But what they've done is, in a small way, they've flooded the market with some inventory, right? Now buyers have a choice. And as soon as the buyers get a scent of, I have choice, rather than me having to kowtow to every single seller, they go, well, I've got some power now, don't I? And so they negotiate rather than just saying whatever the price is, the price is. And this is the self-fulfilling prophecy. It's the sellers who realize the end of the market is there and they didn't want to catch near the top. And that's going to accelerate our downslope. That's what do you think?
That's an interesting concept. I still really, really feel from what I am seeing from when I'm out there buying. And when I'm out there is that I'm not competing as much. I'm still, I may lose a property because somebody's still going to pay for the number, and then we don't see that value. But I still feel that there's not enough inventory. We're not there yet. We may get there, with the thinking of that these sellers are going to start to put the properties back on the market. And we actually talked about this even several more months ago, that we were going to see more properties coming back on the market in August, September, and we're actually seeing that happen. But I think really it's just that we're like on the curve, like we know we're going to get there,
right?
But we're not there yet.
Understood.
And I think, but man, it's competitive out there.
For sure.
Yeah. And now, and again,
more balanced, not balanced,
Yeah.
but more balanced than the
and in certain
insanity
and
we
in
have.
certain areas are going to be
Yes.
more balanced, just simply because the buyers have kind of tapered, again, we tapered off. But interest rates did affect a lot of people. A lot of people had to repause and say to themselves, okay, we can't stretch it now, because before I was using that interest rate
Right.
to offset the taxes, which are that's my pet peeve, and then the insurance costs, which is my second pet peeve, because those two
I had an
items.
insurance specialist here last week
Did
sitting
you?
in the chair.
Yeah.
And she was awesome.
Yeah.
And she explained what was really going on. And I'll recap very quickly,
Yeah,
because
please.
you probably know this, but I'll make sure you know this. All the insurers are belly aching.
Yeah.
We want to pull out of Florida.
Mhm.
We don't want to write policies
Nope.
in Florida because there's too much risk.
Mhm.
And that's the buzzword, risk.
Right.
And when you think of insurance, the idea is it's an actuary saying, listen, for us to take on this risk of having to pay when natural disasters
Mhm.
happen, those that want insurance have to pay this rate, right?
Right.
That's
Right.
what insurance is.
Right.
It's risk and it's an actuary, and you come up with the balance,
Mhm.
right? That's not what the risk they're talking about.
It's all lawsuits.
It's all lawsuits, yes. And I found that
Mhm.
fascinating.
I will tell you a very interesting story. We talked about this in another podcast. Florida has the largest lawsuits in the country.
And by
we
the way,
got
South Florida.
South
has
Florida,
those.
but in Florida in general, we
Yes.
have, and this is something from an insurance guy that I know. We have over 100,000 claims in the state of Florida, or lawsuits. What's the next number? What's the next state? What's the next number?
I'll take
Throw
a
me a
wild
number.
guess. I'll
Throw me a
say it's California, and it's probably like 20,000.
It's not even that. It's 900. Is the
Where?
next
In California?
No, the next state.
I
the
didn't even
next-
guess the state right.
Yeah, the next state is 900.
So
that is-
100,000
Mhm.
plus. It's
Plus,
actually like 106 or something. if I
100,000
remember.
plus in Florida.
To 900 is the
and
number two.
it's
We're
the
number
number
one
two.
again.
We are number one, man. We're number one in fraud. We're number one in that's what we do best. We're a pirate town.
Amazing.
We're a pirate town. But that is exactly right. That is why our
The
insurance levels
risk
are.
for the insurance
Yeah.
companies has nothing to do
Do
with paying
nothing.
out claims.
Nothing.
You got that, folks?
Right.
It's that unscrupulous people are filing suits that
Yep.
filing claims
Mhm.
that are worthy of suits.
Yeah.
And so
They spend half their money just settling suits.
guess who gets rich again?
Mhm.
The attorneys.
Yeah. That's
Not
what
even
they.
the insurance companies. The insurance companies are going broke,
You know-
trying not to pay out suits claims that they shouldn't.
You know what? And you said that about attorneys. You know what closing attorneys say about us? Same thing.
Yeah, I know. And I'm not bashing the attorneys.
No.
I'm just saying
That's
here's
the reason
another
why.
industry where you've got two sides
Yeah.
that can't agree, and rather
Yeah.
than the two of them resolving it on their own, a third party comes in and reaps the reward.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too on insurance, and I've argued with this, and I may have mentioned this in another show, especially in Florida,
Yeah.
where land is so valuable, I should not have to insure on land. So if my dirt
Right.
in Coconut
You said
Grove
this.
is worth $1 million, and my mortgage is 200,000, I should not need insurance. Period. I can pick and choose if I want to have it, but the lender
I see.
cannot
Dictate
dictate
it.
that I have insurance.
Well, you've opened up something in my mind.
that has to be resolved in insurance.
You watch this one,
Mhm.
because you know that the changes in Florida law regarding condos
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything that's going on. So I'm
can't
in a
wait.
condo.
Can't wait till 24
Right.
when nobody will be insured.
Right. I'm in a condo
you're-
right now.
Uh-huh.
And the association was told by our carrier
Mhm.
that the roofs of our buildings,
Right.
which are 20 years old or almost 20 years old, need to be inspected.
Mhm.
So we got them inspected because now there's a new rule about whether or not
Right.
roofs can be covered.
Right.
And so we got a report back, not from one, not from 2, but from 3 roofing companies.
Just think about that. You have insurance and your roof can't be covered.
Got it. Now here we go.
Yeah.
Each of those 3 reports from licensed and insured roofing companies said we had between 5 and 10 years
Right.
left at least on our roofs. The carrier came back and said, your roofs are 20 years old, which they're not, and therefore we're going to drop you.
Done.
Now, isn't it the Florida law that just got passed that if you get a report that says you have 5 years or more of your roof there, that carriers cannot drop
Right.
you?
Yeah. Well,
What's going on?
I got one of those, and then Citizens rescinded the cancellation on their own. On
Wow.
one of those it was a single family property, but
So we have
Yeah.
insurance problems.
insurance.
We have fraud problems.
Yeah, insurance is our biggest issue
have-
and then our insatiable appetite for the tax dollar and the real estate tax. But again, if you look at it from a political standpoint, real estate taxes fund, everything that we do
Right.
in the county. We're talking about the county, and they still can't even cover what they need to cover. So they really need to start looking at their pension plans and some other stuff. But one
Okay,
day,
you're getting political.
sorry, one day.
Center back to real estate.
Back
At
to real estate.
before
But
we
remember,
started
all
the
of
show-
this affects our real estate.
That's true. Before we started the show, you had a topic that you would like to get to. So let's get there.
I want to go back on the tax one really quick. It's going up 14%. So
Got political. Thank you.
your taxes. You look at your taxes. You look at your real estate taxes, and they're tied into inflation. Inflation's at 7 and change, actually higher. So before you were paying 1.4 on your increases, now you're up to the 3. And if you do not have a homestead exemption, you're going to go to 10. So get ready, renters, and get ready, all of those folks.
But the renters are capped at 5% per year, right?
10. Your
it's 10% per year.
investment properties are capped at 10%.
No, I'm saying
investment-
for tax. You're saying for taxes. I'm saying for increases of
no,
rent.
no. All I have to do is give you 60-day notice.
Right. Then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Then I can do whatever I want. So I
And
tell
that
you,
will
it's fine. It's gonna. If you keep taxing the hell out of investment options, the tenants are going to be the ones that are feeling it.
Yeah, and they are, because I happen to be working.
Right.
There's somebody that I helped with a family about a year and a half ago, and now the mom, who's really a grandmom, wants to be on her own.
Right.
And we're out looking at places, and she, she's already retired or semi-retired, so she's into her 401k, which is fine, and she's got enough money to rent a place, but man, trying to find something at her budget.
Yeah.
And she should be able to find it. It's just not there.
It's not there.
Yeah.
And again, it's not going to get any better because of how we're structured as a county and as a state. And there's nothing you're going to do about it. So another thing too, to Miami-Dade County, they want to throw out. So you heard about all of the illegal that Hialeah is going after, all of the little efficiencies and stuff like that. So Miami-Dade County, instead of spending all of this money on renters, covering renters' rents, why don't you help some of these buildings improve, get legalized so that they can continue to have affordable housing, and you put a lien on their property. It's that simple. You just say, hey, listen, a mechanics lien. We're going to go in, we're going to resurface all of these properties. That's where our $40 million is going to go. It's going to do a lot better. It's going to keep inventory. So now we're going to legalize these little efficiencies.
Ooh, this is really interesting.
So
So you're saying
all of
have
that money.
the county spend 40 million.
Whatever. They have $40 million set aside.
That's not going to go very far.
But for improving these little areas in Hialeah and all of these little efficiencies, Little Havana and stuff like that, legalize them. And then you lien the property. When that property gets sold, then that money goes back into the pool with a small interest rate, 2%, 1%, whatever the hell you want. But that money goes back into the pool and gets reused again to continue to service affordable housing throughout the county. But they just want to give money away because that gets you votes. So if you feel like I'm giving you free money, trust me, when I go knock on your door and say, hey, listen, I want your vote, I'm going to get your vote.
That sounds like you're a politician.
Public servant, let's say that. But let me hit on the topic, if you don't mind. We've been talking about what to do with money once you have sold a place.
Okay.
And you and I have talked about it. When you have a residential property and you know that it's gone, that you have 250,000 to 500,000 that is tax free, you can do whatever the heck you want with it. But what happens if you're if it's an investment property and you've made this money? And one of my clients who just recently sold asked me that question. What do you want me to do with this amount of money? And they were thinking about buying their next property, a home, not a residential home.
Okay.
So moving from where they currently are, kind of stepping up in the market. And they said, you know what, should I put all that money into that residential property? And I mentioned to him and said, listen, you may not want to do that. You may want to, unless you're trying to reduce, you know, $1 million home down to 500,000 or whatever it is. And then that's, you know, that your mortgage. If you know that you're really only stepping up X and you're going to use this cash to really put yourself at a zero mortgage position.
Okay.
Or, you know, and I have always told people, and again, there's two different opinions about this. If you're Cuban, like I am, they'd say, pay it off. It's your house and all that. But I've always said you have dead money in equity sitting there. And, you know, a home is a great investment and it may be $500,000 in equity that you have in there, but it's equity. You can't do anything with it. It's just sitting there. So why don't you take that
you
money?
move, it's dead money.
Right. It's dead money.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, if you've already pocketed this amount of money, you're going to pay a capital gains tax on it. Well, then, you know, if you want to use a little bit for a mortgage, that's great to pay down a mortgage on a new home. But if you've got $200,000, $300,000 in capital, $500,000 in capital, why don't you use that money to invest? Don't tie it up in a home unless you need to do that because of, you know, financial reasons, mortgage wise, you want your mortgage to be low. But I still say that if you have something out there and you're paying 5.5, let's say it's going to go back down to 4.5. I expect it will go probably down to 4.5 again.
Okay.
So let's say you're 4.5. If you buy an investment property that's, you know, returning 10%, 11% a month, which you can, not in Florida, not in Miami, don't do it in Miami, it ain't gonna happen. But if you're taking this money out, then you know, think about it. Think really hard about it. Look at your financials. But I always say, if you have some cash in hand, go do something else with investment. Don't buy a Lamborghini. You know, don't spend it on stupid stuff. But if you really want to build your wealth, this is a way of doing it in a way that, you know, is reasonable. And that was all. I mean, they asked me and I said, listen, just put a little bit of money in the mortgage.
So if you took a mile high view of your statement, what you're saying really is, hey, if you've made some money in real estate, maybe you don't want to put it all back in.
Correct. So
you're right. You're really talking about, and there's a lot of shades of gray here. You're really talking about diversification, right?
Yeah, and diversification. But even if it's in real estate, you have your residential home, which again we've turned it into a short-term vehicle, and we've talked about this on other shows. You know, with a law passed in 1999 where you could keep 250 or 500,000 in cash on non-tax, you turned residential real estate into an investment, a 2-year short-term investment, because you have to live 2 out of 5 years. So I know people that have made millions of dollars just trading properties. And we're into the 10th cycle since this law took into effect, because it's 2022, came into effect in 2011 cycle. So you have a lot of people that live in their home for only 2 years.
They live in their home for 2 years, sell it, and
cash
any
out,
profit,
puts it in their pocket, next, and they keep going. And I think that's affected residential real estate. One of the reasons why we're such a tight market, that's one of the other reasons. But more importantly, I think as a client, as somebody that's, you know, and say to yourself, hey, listen, you know what? You're going to put some money to your residential. Let's say you need money to put a 20% down on your next purchase. Perfect. Do that. But if you still have some cash here, go buy some investment properties. And remember, investments are investments. Buy them anywhere. Doesn't matter where. As long as it's returning what you need it to return, that's what it's supposed to do. So that's my 2 cents on what to do with some cash when you sell a property.
I'm going to take the last minute and a half of our show.
Okay.
I'm going to take a minute. You get 30 seconds.
No, I don't.
I'm going to do my 1 minute.
Okay, go
It's
for it.
a little bit of a commercial. I'm going to look right out at our audience. So here's my lesson in real estate 101. A condominium complex in Pinecrest called the Reserve of Pinecrest. There are 6 listings on the market at the same time, 2 of which are mine. Starting at about 125 days, I think is one of them.
Wow.
Been on market for 125 days and going down to somewhere in the mid 40s. So remember, 6 all in the market at the same time, relatively close and similar in what the units are like. My 2 units, one sold in 1 day, one sold in 7 days. What? Why?
Pricing.
You don't think it's the great agent?
Great agent for pricing.
It is. And you know what? He's right on both counts. You know, be a good agent. Don't get greedy and price right. and get good marketing out there, and you get the job done. So there's 4 other agents out there that, in my mind, aren't doing the job.
Don't
right?
don't BS your clients, and don't raise your property $65,000 from one day to another unless you had a BOGO.
All right.
That's it.
You got 7 seconds.
Javier Gonzalez.
That's it. Wow.
That's it.
You
That's all I
used
got.
Until next week, have a great week, and we hope you do well in real estate.
Do well, guys.
See
Thank
ya.
you.